And as a photographer, my job is to capture that, is to capture your essence, to capture who you are as a person. And essentially, photography is the art of the identity.
I feel like a Zen Buddha on this chair. You look like a news presenter. I have an idea. I'm going to test this out on you a little bit. It's nothing to be nervous.
This is going to be fun. Okay.
So I have these little cards.
Okay.
And they're like conversation prompts. And I thought it might be a good idea for us to do it together. You know, sometimes you need a bit of a warm up just to like get going. I don't know if you get that, but I do. I'm kind of like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to say. And I just need to like do something. So these have got like funny questions on them. They're like quite light-hearted questions. So I was thinking, do you want to pick one and see what it says? Okay. If it's something you don't want to answer, then you don't have to. So
interesting.
Oh, there we go. See, it works already.
All right. What are your top 5 regrets in life? Top 5 regrets. That's interesting.
I think I can speak for everyone in saying one regret is probably always going to be not starting sooner, because that's something I always hear, and I know that's not completely unique to either of us, and whether you're going to say that or not, I've just spoken for you. But I think in like creative things and anyone who kind of gets started in a creative adventure at any point in their life, like there's always the thing where people are like, oh, I just wish I started sooner. Have you found that?
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people that I have conversations with who want to do creative careers or want to start something, there was always that phrase that people use, which is, oh, I wish I started sooner, or I wish I'd done this sooner.
Exactly.
Because it's like running a marathon in the sense there's people that you'll talk to, that you'll be friends with, and they'll go, oh, I really want to run. You know, I really want to learn how to run. And then that first run they do is the biggest step that they actually take.
Yeah.
And then 3 months down the line, they're running marathons.
Yeah.
And I feel like that in itself as a creative career is that first moment where you go, I'm going to put on my running shoes. I'm going to go out the door. I'm going to try this. And it's interesting because I feel like you go through these different seasons in your creative life where it always changes. And I feel like there'll be times even in your creative life, like you'll regret maybe trying the thing and it doesn't work out. And then you go, oh gosh, why did I do that? But then it always leads to something else.
Yeah.
In that sense. And there's times where maybe I've been put in situations where I'm like, oh, I wish I'd gone for that opportunity when it presented itself. But maybe I just wasn't ready for that, you know. But like, what's something else that comes to mind when it comes to your creative lives that you feel like, oh, I regret maybe that?
I feel like regret's quite a strong word, isn't it? Because it almost makes it sound like you wish that you didn't do it or haven't done it. And I can't think off the top of my head that there's anything that I would immediately say like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I did it sooner or something. I think it's just in general, I think, can confidence be a regret? Like I wish, if I could have a wish, maybe not a regret, but I wish I had been more confident to kind of step out and do, like follow that gut instinct that you get when you're like, oh, you know, it starts off as an idea or it starts off as a feeling and you just want to get started. And it's almost like that fear and the confidence or lack thereof kind of stops you. And I just wish that if I could go back, I'd be like, you know, if me now could go back to me in the past and be like, come on, you can do it. Just like push yourself that like little bit. Or if someone was there to push me. I think that's the other thing for me. I guess it's been me kind of driving myself forward. I have never really had someone there who I've been able to kind of explain my ideas to, which I do now, but before. And that someone to just be like, you know, just go and try it, see what happens. It's always like, well, that's not going to work, so why would you go and do it? Like, I guess that's kind of a regret, but it's more like a regret of other people. Not me.
Bless you, Daisy. Like, I know what you mean, because there is that kind of growth period in a creative life where you have this idea in your head or a vision of something you want to do or who you want to be in this world and what you want to create. And I completely relate to that. Like, I genuinely feel like all this time, 5 years of building up the confidence to start my business, to become a photographer.
Yeah.
Because one of the favorite things that I recently saw a speech that Steven Spielberg did, where he said, "It always whispers." You know, a dream always whispers to itself. So, like, you know, for me, I had a whisper to be a photographer, and it was always there in the background.
Oh.
And it was always like, you know, and then, you know, I did kind of think to myself, I wish I'd done this sooner, because it's brought me so much joy. It's brought me so many amazing people in my life. Just that one decision to start photography led to me meeting you. It led to me doing a degree. It led to me making so many new friends in the creative industry. And I am so grateful for all the people that have come into my life and joined me in this adventure of becoming a photographer. And people keep joining me and keep coming on my adventure with me. And I bet you feel the same in the sense, like with the podcast, like how many, just by you making that one decision, wanting to create your podcast.
Exactly.
That you have now this entire community of people.
That's crazy to think, isn't it? That people see what you're creating as well. And that almost becomes your community too. Like putting your ideas out there as whatever thing it is, photography, painting, podcasting. And it's kind of like, that's what attracts people. It's kind of not just you as your person, kind of the thing beyond you, like your little creation. It's kind of like, here you go, world. Take this.
Have this. This is my soul. This is my expression of myself.
Yeah.
But one thing I really love about what I do is that it's not just about my creative expression. It's about the person I'm photographing's creative expression. So like when I photographed you, I loved it because I was just like, I just want you to be free. I want you to be yourself. I want you to be creative as possible. And I want to capture you as you are. Like, allow you to have the space, like, to play and to come up with ideas and props and poses and just allow you to kind of express yourself. And as a photographer, my job is to capture that, is to capture your essence, to capture who you are as a person. And essentially, photography is the art of the identity. That's what it is. It is capturing someone and putting that in a single frame. And I love it because the best part of being a photographer is when you do that for someone. When you almost give them a piece of art that's about them. And that's what I love about it.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I like that. Did you practice that? See, you don't need to practice. You knew what you were saying.
Like the thing is like I think we're both artists in what we do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that energy just kind of flows through. Sense.
So if we was to go back to like the beginning of Hayley's story, what do you think would be the kind of, how would you describe your kind of childhood? Was it creative? Did you get to play around with things? Like, what was that kind of environment like?
I would say I was really lucky as a child because I had really supportive parents, amazing like grandparents. And I think what was great about both parents is they really encouraged me to play. They encouraged me to be creative. My grandma was an artist. My grandpa loved photography. And my grandma and grandpa would take me to the ballet when I was little. And I remember being a little girl and looking at these ballet posters. And I always thought, like, first of all, I wanted to be a ballerina. But then as I grew in my creative career, I always wanted to make the ballerina posters and do the photography and the graphic design for ballet. And I remember my grandma, there would always be paint on the kitchen table. There would always be something creative. Like my mom would take me to like lots of theatre shows and art galleries. And I feel like the best thing about my family is they always encouraged me, like they always encouraged me to be creative. At school, I had really supportive teachers who were always encouraging me, putting art books in front of me, fashion magazines. When I was little, I had a Barbie camera, and that was the first ever camera I had, and it had like a little little pink sunflower. And like what I do now when I edit on Lightroom, I had my Barbie software. So I used to go through all my photos, and it's really interesting being now, you know, and being where I am now as a grown woman, and be like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting how things that you did as a child make sense in later life.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, you know, when you're a creative person, I feel like it's a calling. It comes to you in the sense that you're like, oh, I really like doing this. A great thing about, you know, I think having a creative career is you still get to play. There's so many people who want to be creative, who want to go out the box and want to do creative things. And I think the great thing about being creative people for both of us is other people get to see our creativity and go, maybe I could give that a try.
Yeah.
And I think that is amazing. And that's why we need more artists. We need more people creating things in the world, because it creates more positivity for people. And I think that's really important. And I love it when I photograph a wedding, how happy that I make the families and the brides, because for them, it's my art, it becomes their wedding. You know, I love it how you'll have a couple who you can just tell that they're in love, and it's so beautiful when those also translate through in the photographs as well. So it's just, you get to this beautiful opportunity to kind of capture people's memories. And then, like, for me, I always get really excited when someone says to me, oh, I've got your photography actually in my living room. I love that. Like, that was my dream when I started photography, is one day someone would put my photography as like their family memories on their wall. And now I have quite a few families that have my photography in their living room. And it's just like, it's the artwork that maybe is kind of like that people see, but it's the fact that I've creatively, positively contributed something to someone's life that makes me feel really happy and proud of my work, because my work is about people, and I love people. Like, I grew up in a big family. I'm very family orientated, and I love doing that kind of photography because it is about family and connection, and I love that. And it's just, when my clients come to me, it's like they're like, hi, I really want you to capture this for me, because it would be so special if you could do this for me, because I've always wanted a photo of this, or I've always wanted a photo of this, because I can't unfortunately get that photo with my phone because I'm always running about. So if you could just do that, that would be great. So I could finally have a photo of me and all my family together. And I was like, I love it, because I give people something they can kind of go, this is our family, or this is our wedding, or this is our company, or this is me. You know, like, for instance, I photographed someone who has just recently started their own business. And I love that moment where it was kind of like, having that photograph, I feel like, makes it really official for someone. So for them, when they have that photograph, it's their moment. All I'm doing is just encouraging and capturing that moment. But for them, it's their moment. It's their wedding, or it's their family, or it's their business, or it's their event. And it's just so lovely when you kind of get to be that person in someone's life, like that kind of person that comes in and you know, gives them something to kind of remember what was significant about that time or that place. And I love it when people look at the photos and they just bring some joy. I think that's what I love about my job that I created for myself, because I started my own photography business.
Cheering,
so cool,
waving the flag.
It's like and it's, you know, and it's been a journey. It has been an amazing journey filled with amazing people, and it has been, I think, a calling for a very long time. Like, I've always kind of worked in the back of my head. I'm thinking, one day I'd like to run a business, or one day I'd like to photograph like fashion photography. One day I'd like to photograph a wedding. One day I'd like to, create really cool photography for people. One day I'd like to photograph like families and have this photography business. And it was very like, for 5 years, it was a one day kind of thing. And now my photography business is a today thing. Like, it's something now I do every day. I love it. And I love what it brings to people as well. And I love what it's brought my family. I love what it's brought to my community. The Southampton creative community is amazing. And I would say there's so many different places and avenues where you can get support in actually starting a business or wanting to be creative.
Yeah.
There's like so many communities within Southampton where you can network with people, like in the film industry. You can go to an art gallery event and you can learn more about like art curation. They also in Southampton have their own business community. So that's where I kind of started. Was I went to the Southampton business community and library, and I remember going there and being like, I really want to start this business, but I'm not so sure how to do it.
I didn't know that. That's where I started the podcast as well, the BIPC.
Yeah, the BIPC.
Upstairs. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that's where you got started. Is that how you started with photography before you started your course and your degree?
So that's how it all kind of, like, the business side of things kind of grew from there. That is so amazing. So that's where you started this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think that is a really good point, actually. Like, I think there can be a misconception sometimes about Southampton because it's not immediately like this amazing creative city like Bristol or Brighton or somewhere, but there are a lot of things going on in Southampton. It's like we said before, you just have to kind of get in there a little bit, kind of like stick your finger out and like just be like, oh, what's going on here? Like,
oh, what's like here? And it's interesting. And I think what's brilliant about your podcast is you're really bringing attention to the creative community. So. Like, I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on it, by the way.
You're so welcome.
So like, but yeah, no, I think Southampton is a hotspot for creativity. And like, I think it's so cool that we started in the same place with like our journeys.
Yeah, that's funny.
So was your first podcast episode in there?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I met somebody because it was quite a good meeting point because obviously it's like a public place. If you're meeting up with someone that you haven't met before, it's not too official, but it's kind of, people know where the library is and things like that. It's free, so you're not paying anything to kind of get started. And yeah, I recorded my first ever podcast episode in one of the meeting booths in there. And I just wandered in. I was like, oh, this is official. I've started now.
Like, that is amazing. And like, it's so interesting because I do genuinely think that first step you take in something you're passionate about and you want to create in the world is the most meaningful, because it's the thing that makes you go, oh, I can do this.
Yeah. Do you remember if there was a moment where you kind of had that, where you wanted to start doing photography and you either it was a feeling or like something happened where you kind of took that first leap into the photography world?
I would say with photography it was a whisper. So it just slowly grew over time.
Yeah.
So what would happen is a lot of the time I'd be like, for example, I used to work at Aspects Art Gallery as an art volunteer.
Uh-huh.
And I remember when I was helping, like, I used to volunteer as an art teacher and used to help the kids paint and teach art workshops. And I loved that. Because again, it was being involved in a creative community. And there was a moment when I was working with them where basically they gave me a camera and then they just kept giving me a camera. And I'd be in a lot of positions where people would keep giving me cameras. And I'd be like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. And then over time, it kind of, it kind of grew. And then what happened for me is, I remember I studied art, GCSE. And me and my grandpa, my grandpa loves photography. Basically, me and my grandpa, we went to go and photograph a Charles Rennie Mackintosh building in Glasgow.
Oh, cool.
So it was so amazing because it was the first time that I saw my passion for photography, but I saw my grandfather's passion for photography as well. So my grandpa was like telling me, right, Hayley, this angle, right, Hayley, that angle. Come on, Hayley, like do it like this. And I was like, my grandpa is an amazing photographer. Like I learned so much that day. And that was like one of my happiest memories from doing photography was just that day with my grandpa. Being able to like learn a little bit more about him as a person as well. And then what happened is after I studied GCSE art, I then went to go and study fashion. And then after studying fashion for a bit, I studied art. And then after that, what I did is I then went to uni to study fashion graphics. And this is when the photography really became a solid realization for me. Where basically what happened is we did a module on fashion photography, and my lecturer at the time looked at me and said, "You're really good at this. This is something you should really consider and pursue as a career." And this whole time I was falling in love with photography. Like I was going, yeah, I really like this. And I remember I was 21 at the time, very young, and I was going around Southampton exploring photography. So I was just going around Southampton, practicing, taking photographs. And I was very much trying to learn my craft. And then what happened is I got the chance to work as a fashion stylist. After doing 1 year of university, and then decided that I was going to explore fashion styling for a bit. And I think it's great because I'd worked in the fashion industry for a bit and I got to learn how to be a fashion stylist. I think this is what made me a great photographer, in the sense that what happened is I learned how to connect with people and how to create a concept or an idea for someone that they really wanted. So for instance, when I did bridal styling, a lot of the time brides would come to me and say, right, I'm thinking this gown, this length, this lace, and I had to almost construct the gown or the dress or the outfit that they wanted in their head.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with my photography clients, I'm using the same skill set where I'm constructing the outfit of what they want their photo shoot to look like. So for me, it's like I have something called the wow shot. And I always want to know what someone's like core photograph and their photo shoot that they really want. And that's the shot that I'm in my head the whole time I'm working with them. I'm like, get to the wow shot. But it's the thing is about doing a photo shoot, it's the creative process. So it flows naturally. Like you just have to let it organically happen. And very much like my journey of becoming a photographer, that's exactly what happened. Because then what happened is for about 5 years, I kind of, back of my head, really wanted to start a photography business, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to do it. I was still growing my confidence in myself because I feel like people go through phases in their life where they have a calling or something what they do and they're not so sure how they're going to do it or how they're going to grow or whether they're ready or whether they can. Those feelings are completely normal and it is okay to feel like that. And that's actually a really important time of the process because that's where you're growing the most.
Yeah.
In your journey of becoming a creative professional. And what happened for me is I worked in industry for about 5 years. And then quite recently, I decided, you know what? I want to go back to university. I want to go back to academia. I'm gonna study photography. So what I did is I saved up a bit of money, and I then applied for a foundation degree to do photography at Southampton City College. And this is where the real magic started to happen. So I met my photography lecturer, and I remember I held my camera in my hand and I said, I want to learn how to do this. And so I worked with him, and he has been an amazing mentor and amazing support in my growth in being a photographer. Like, because I started with photography not really knowing my camera settings, not really knowing how. I knew I was good at, I had a creative eye. I didn't know technically how to do very much. But doing that foundation degree and now doing my photography degree and working with my mentor. And I have about 3 people that I go to mentoring me in photography. I've got 2 lecturers and that help me with the technical stuff, and they've just really helped my confidence and my growth. I feel like having a creative community or having an arts education can help you feel like you have a space to grow as a practitioner. And I feel like that is so important, especially if you're a young creative, because you get the opportunity to ask people who maybe have been in the industry longer than you or can teach you things that maybe you didn't consider.
Yeah.
And also the same with like the Southampton business community. As I was trying to grow the business and do the degree, I was also reaching out to people in the business community going, I want to start a business. I don't know how to do it. Could you teach me? Can you show me? And I feel like that's also an important part of having a creative career, is asking for help from other people in your community. You don't have to do it alone. You can do this with many people. And the one thing I love about photography is the people that it's brought into my life. Like all the amazing creatives and people that I've met through doing photography, that's a blessing, because it's just made me have more friends, which I've really enjoyed. So I've gotten to know so many more people, like in different parts of London, like different parts of Southampton, like Portsmouth, like Bournemouth, like you name it. I feel like I've now got friends wherever I go, which is such a blessing. And that's what I love about creativity. It connects people as a whole and as a community. And I feel that feeling of community and family is really important to me as a person, but also as a creative, to have that core essence of what you're creating in this world and having those values as well. Because that's where the magic happens.
No, definitely. It's so interesting that you say about your teacher and sort of mentors and all of those sort of people, but especially on your degree, because I think, and this is one of the things with creativity in general, it's, like, do you go to university and do a degree, or do you kind of try and wing it on your own? And it's good talking to people with different experiences, because you do get people who have a really amazing experience, have amazing teachers, and they see the kind of value of going to learn something in a like academic institutional sort of setting. And I think it varies a lot, because I've also spoken to people on the podcast who, they've gone to university to study something entirely different, and then they've kind of found their own way to what they're doing now. So it's interesting to hear that you kind of got that like nurturing while you were still on your course. And I think that's really nice, because like you say, you can ask questions while you're still doing it and you're practicing it. But I think you bring another aspect to the course for yourself if you're going out into the world and kind of saying, I really want to do this thing. What are the opportunities available to me? Because it's different to just doing your course and staying in that kind of little arena and modules and things that you get given, if that makes sense. It's kind of a bit more of an exploration. And I think that's the point of university and colleges and things like that. It's kind of helping you, but also you kind of have to take yourself beyond those like boundaries, or not boundaries, just kind of into the 4 walls of your classroom. It's like university has the word universe in it. It's like you need to step out of that as well, and you give yourself so much of a richer experience. So yeah, it's really good to hear that.
Like it's interesting, because I think, Daisy, you've touched on like a really important point, which is I do think it is having that equal balance of industry experience but also educational experience, and both of them have values, and there's no wrong or right path. It is your own journey, and I feel like there's a lot of young people that need to hear that. They need to hear that you can choose what you want to do. Like, you don't have to go to university. You can do an apprenticeship. Or if you don't want to do an apprenticeship, you can possibly work. You can work, or you can start a business. And the world, and I know we always say this, but the world is truly your oyster. It's just about being open to experiences and to be brave to try what you really want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Kind of pushing yourself out there a little bit. Does that come naturally to you? Do you think are you the sort of person who kind of feels comfortable to go out there? Because I guess people have I don't know if it's like a misconception or whether there's some truth to it. Like Scottish people are really like outgoing and they'll just like put themselves out there and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that, whatever. But is that the case for you? And do you think that's true?
I would definitely say there's a little bit of like tenacity. I definitely think that there was that positivity. Definitely, I think within the nature of being, you know, a true like Scottish woman, I would say. But I would say for me, I'm very much someone who, if I have an idea in my head, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see it as a possibility to do it. And I'm going to give it my best shot. And it was really interesting because I think I surprised, my friends are so happy for me. Like my friends and family are so proud of like what I've achieved in my business and like how I've grown my photography business. Because they were with me when I was literally just sitting at the kitchen table going, I'm thinking of doing photography. I'm thinking of starting a business. I don't really know how to do this yet, but I'm gonna work it out. So I basically go on this adventure where I decide that I'm gonna go to Southampton business community and I'm gonna ask people, how do you start a business? I'm gonna sign up for a photography course and I'm gonna learn how to be a photographer because people say I'm good at photography.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be open for the adventure. And that's what photography felt like. It was like this adventure that I decided to go on, and the adventure just keeps growing. And that's what to kind of keep to kind of keep me in a perspective where I'm like, I tell myself, your business is your adventure.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I'm so proud that I've started my own photography business and I've just grown as a person for making that one decision of starting my own business, that one decision of becoming a photographer. I have grown to become this more, like, I would say definitely more myself. I would say that sometimes, like for me, I'm definitely more confident in my abilities and I'm so proud of how, like, I've grown because I remember when I was a little girl, I have dyslexia. And I remember being a little girl in class and I couldn't read any books. So photography, art was my only way of communication when I was at school. And I just focused, and I think the magic happens for a lot of kids who are neurodiverse. I would always say to their parents, encourage them in what they love, encourage them to focus on what they're passionate about. And for me, that was art and image making. So for me, because I couldn't read any books when I was little, what I would do is I would just look at fashion magazines. But it is so interesting to now be, you know, running my own business and having dyslexia as well, thinking back about that little girl who used to look at fashion magazines at school and looking at fashion photography and looking at those photos one day and thinking, I would really like to make work like that one day. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually have just come back from working on a film set and I made photography that looked like the photography that I saw in those fashion magazines when I was a little girl. And I'm so proud of the work that I've actually produced working on the film set and how much my photography skills through studying my degree has helped build my confidence also in like academia as well. And it's so amazing how my degree has given me so much confidence in my ability to write essays, in my ability to like read text and find ways around working around my dyslexia to the point where I can work independently, I can run a business, I can do so many things. And also the great thing about me, I can pave the way for someone else.
Yeah.
I can give hope to someone who maybe is just starting out in their creative career and maybe they might see me today saying, I started a business, I did a degree, and I just want to say to all those beautiful people, it is definitely possible. You just gotta find good people, believe in yourself, and make it happen. And be brave. Just be brave and enjoy who you are as a person and what you bring to the table, because that is unique to you as a person.
Yeah.
And the one thing I found interesting is a lot of my friends who have started businesses always ask them, I said, was this a calling? Did you feel called to run your business? Was there something about your business that you wanted to bring something into the world about you as a person? And a lot of people's businesses, or a lot of people's enterprises, or a lot of people's, creative projects, like, or a lot of people's podcasts, is a part of their creative calling. And I find that so interesting. And the funny thing is, I've noticed some of my friends have turned around to me. They're seeing me run my business. They're seeing me do photography. And some of them are picking up cameras now. Some of them...
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. I think, like we said before, kind of having that confidence to put yourself out there and follow that calling, it does inspire other people for sure. It's like your little sprinkle of magic that you put out into the world, isn't it? It's almost like it stays within you until you find a way to bring it out, and then people see it, and it maybe sounds a little bit like exaggerated, but I feel like those are the tiny little changes that like change the world, not like in a kind of macro sense, just like in a way that like you seeing you do something and be confident in doing it changes what other people see, and it's like, yeah, maybe I can do that sort of thing. And I think touching on neurodiversity as well, especially on this podcast, is really important, because it's not something that I've kind of touched on in other conversations with people before. But is there things in like starting a business that you found especially challenging with having dyslexia, or is it just kind of being aware that you have it and there are certain things that you might find a little bit more difficult than other people, and kind of you've got the people around you that can help you, and you don't see it as an obstacle. It's just like I just need help with this thing a bit more.
Well, it's interesting because Richard Branson's dyslexic.
Yeah.
And there's a huge line of people who are entrepreneurs who are dyslexic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you're very used to working with lots of people. So you actually, through being dyslexic, you actually gain a skill set because you're used to being a self-starter, because you're used to kind of trying to work through something and then find solutions to it.
Yeah.
So I would say there's so many resources for people when it comes to having support with neurodiversity, in the sense that, for instance, you can have access to work. So you can get access. The great thing about me being self-employed is I can get support from access to work. And there are also programs out there that can support disabled people in starting their own businesses and starting their own enterprises, which is amazing that there is that resource out there. And also, at the end of the day, it's about finding strategies. So, like, for instance, I use reading softwares, I use writing softwares, I ask for help when I need it. And I think that's the great thing, is that I've learned how to communicate to people when I need help.
Yeah.
There are some people who run businesses don't know how to ask for help, and they find that really difficult. But for me, I've asked for help my whole life, and it has brought me so many amazing people because of that. And I'm so proud personally, as being a young dyslexic girl. Well, I'm now
you're a woman.
I'm a woman, but I mean, like, at the core of my heart, I'm a woman. Like,
you're Hayley.
Hell yeah. Like, but I mean, being someone who has grown up with dyslexia, and who has started their own business, who is doing a photography degree, who is paving a path that is positive. And I'm so proud that I have actually built what I've built in my life. And it's been a really interesting journey. And I just hope that my story can inspire another dyslexic girl to feel like they can run their own business. They can, they can do a degree, and they can do it, and they can feel fabulous about themselves, and they can achieve anything they want to.